I think the problem is something like 80% of Republicans still think he's the man. And I don't know how you overcome that. And I also think the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago brought the party around him again. Like maybe he was slipping and maybe DeSantis was in the picture. I think that's out of the picture, at least for now. 2 years is a long time though, who knows? I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, but one of the things that I understood that he took were the nuclear codes. But the hilarious thing about that is those changed on January 20th, 2021. And that feels like that's a typical Trump thing where he doesn't understand the situation he's in. And so he just does something really bonehead.
This time on the Plutopia podcast, our friend Roy Casagranda joins John, Scoop, and Susie for a wide-ranging dissection of current events. We ask the question, to jail or not to jail for he who must not be named. We explore Christian nationalists, China versus Taiwan, Fox versus Dominion, the credibility of elections, abortion rights, and beer bongs. Who do we know that's going to be singing that song? Are you listening?
I don't know. What do you guys think? Giuliani spent an awful lot of time in there. 6 hours in his deposition.
Oh, when did they do that? Today?
No, it was a couple of days. I want to say at the beginning of the week, maybe Monday or even Friday.
Yeah, but does anyone know how many times he took the fifth or drank a fifth?
They're speculating it wasn't very many because it took 6 hours and it wouldn't have taken that long if he was just pleading the fifth.
Well, I don't know. Think about Giuliani and his verbose way of dealing with a simple answer that he could go on for hours just saying, I don't know.
Well, the odd thing about him that I've noticed over the last couple of years is that he really does, he says it like it is. He'll sit there and tell you basically that he's doing stuff that's illegal and he doesn't think anything of it. It's like he doesn't realize that it's illegal.
So ironic that he is so mobbed up after all of the cleaning up of New York and the mafia and all of that crap, and he is so clear. He speaks like a gangster. He's hidden, he's got hidden money. He's just shifty, and I don't know. I wonder though. I think his alcoholism will make him want to stay out of prison.
But he's America's mayor.
No, he was for a hot minute. I mean, he really was. What the fuck happened to this guy?
Well, he was like in the right place at the right time there. And it wasn't that hard for him to come off as a hero, I think, considering what had happened. And he seemed to be, taking the steps he needed to take and so forth. But
well, he knew that the Republican presidents have always had, and some Democratic presidents as well, have had a history of giving pardons to some undeserving individuals.
I'll say
Trump, he kept up the old school tradition there.
Well, there are some people who did not get pardons, and I wonder,
and they're pissed,
honestly, if that was strategic, because he can let people be satisfied with all these biggish littler fish, so maybe
it's hard for me to understand Trump's strategy, if he has one. I think he's more tactical most of the time, and that he's kind of in the moment, and there may have been other pardons that he would have given if he had just kind of thought about it. Maybe he just lost track. I think he's got an ADHD problem, among other things.
Definitely.
Well, speaking for the ADHD folks, I can see how that would happen. But his, I think, is more serious than even that. I think Daddy Trump dropped him on his head too many times.
Oh man, I watched the Mary Trump show today. I love watching her show. She does release these little 10-minute snippets, and story was also in her book, but it was about. Did either of you read her book?
Haven't read it.
No.
Too much.
Didn't have the stomach for it.
Oh man, it was so good though. I mean, it really
Was
offered
it?
you. Yeah. Oh yeah, and she's a brilliant writer. But there's a story, and apparently, okay. So the story is that when they were little, it was Thanksgiving, and everybody was sitting at the table, and Donald would mercilessly tease his younger brother, and just, I mean, the kid was crying, he was hysterical. Nobody could get Trump to stop doing it because, you know, he was already who he was. So his mother picked up a thing of potatoes that they had just put down, of mashed potatoes, and walked over and dumped it on Donald's head at the table. And
well, that's a waste of good potatoes.
But he was mortified. And so every year this story gets told at this family gathering, and he crosses his arms and he looks down and he pouts. And so the Thanksgiving dinner at the White House, same story got told, and he was sitting in the White House being humiliated by his family.
Nothing like family to knock you down several notches. It's happened to me many times.
Oh, no doubt.
And I
right?
deserved it generally, so I can't really complain that much.
You know, that might be part of the crisis in this country, is that there's so many dysfunctional families that produce dysfunctional offspring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I come from a fairly small, more dysfunctional family. I mean, they weren't terrible. Well, I can think of a lot of ways my family was dysfunctional, but fortunately it wasn't in ways that made me mean or dishonest or crazy or whatever.
Right.
Of course, the other thing is that I was raised by television quite a bit too. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are that way. Whose parents sort of were okay with them just staring at the tube, which I still do.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah,
I'm staring at a screen right now.
Right now, this minute.
Yeah, I had grown up in a really nice family, but they were also damn conservative. They did not understand me or my sisters or my brother. We just, you know, my parents were just like, what did we do? It's like, you know, we just had to reassure them, it's not your fault. We just, we took a left turn at Albuquerque and kept.
I knew I should have taken that left turn.
But, you know, there's some people who are just terrible with their kids, you know.
Yeah.
And the kids are terrible.
But some of them turn out better than they were. You know, I mean, better than their parents, because they recognize, like, I know not a lot, but I know my friends who are men who are good fathers, a lot of them had really crappy fathers. And so they're like going out of their way to make sure that they tell their kids they love them, their boys especially, that they love them and it's okay to cry and stuff like that. I'm really, that makes me proud of my boyfriends.
Yeah, kids, I've noticed, you know, some kids tend to go a different direction from whatever their parents' direction was. Because, you know, I raised my daughter, you know, from the age of 5 to 13 until I met, you know, Clarissa. And she helped me because I knew nothing about, you know, how to raise a teenage girl. I was in way over my head. But my daughter turned out, yeah, she was his only child, so she wanted to have children. Where did that come from?
I was just thinking people are strange, and oddly enough.
Okay. You have
sorry, interrupted.
You have Alexa.
Alexa just all of a sudden started playing People Are Strange.
Yeah, but my daughter, you know, she ended up, you know, having a big family. She has 5 kids, and now there's like 5 or 6 grandchildren, and
Oh,
that's what
wow.
she wanted because she was an only child, and she didn't like it. She wanted to have a big family, and I didn't.
Oh, I was an
I
only
could barely
child, and I
handle
was
having
like,
one child.
yeah, I was like, no, thank you for me. I was an only child, and then I experienced being an au pair, and which is a fancy name for babysitter, and it
Mm.
was so awful. It was so fucking awful.
You
Um,
didn't like being an au pair?
I fucking hated it. I mean, and
Why?
I had an infant. I had and these are okay. So one family was an infant, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and then the second family I worked for were twin, uh, paternal twins who were 4, and they went to school. They all went to school except for, of course, the infant. And I learned then and there that it was not something I wanted to do.
What was it you didn't like about it?
I think the shorter list would be what I did like about it.
Well, I mean, were the people hard to deal
No,
with,
it
or were
was
the
the
kids
kids.
bad? The
They
kids
weren't
were
bad.
terrible, huh?
No, they were not bad. They were not bad kids. I just did not enjoy myself. I didn't like being around kids. I didn't like, I didn't really have the patience, and had to force myself, of course, but it was just not for me. I didn't enjoy being responsible for another thing that's alive that I have, that was too much for me. A dog, a cat, no problem, but a little tiny human, I could barely take care of my fucking self, you know? So it just never appealed to me. And then it really just drove it home when I had to do it. So I'm glad I did it then instead of having the child and then realizing that I was really bad at it.
Yeah.
Well, when you actually have a child that uh, the there's a kind of instinctive thing that kicks in, I think, you know, um,
Maybe so, yeah. But I think
it changes you, in other words.
yeah, but I think there's also something to be said for people who instinctively know that they shouldn't have a kid. And
Well,
then,
it's true. And then there's a lot of people who have kids, despite the fact that they don't necessarily want them, but
mhm,
kids tend to be a result of something that they really did want to do,
yes, that's right.
and that's I guess that's the problem. You
Yeah,
have unwanted children.
yeah. And I mean, you would think that because of that, that gay adoption wouldn't be in the sights of the Supreme Court right now, but it will be as soon as, because we've got
Oh, is that
Lawrence
another one on the list?
And Obergefell were named in the decision about having to look at those again and make sure that those are really what the Jesus Americans want.
Yeah.
So,
And there's the thing about women voting. They're going to want to do away with
Yeah,
that.
those pesky
well,
women want to vote. Yeah.
that would make things a lot fucking easier, wouldn't it?
I think
I don't
that
think it won't happen. I could totally see that happening.
the ideal thing would be if only wealthy male landowners could vote
I
who were
feel like
Christian.
Yeah,
we're
well, I
going
think
that direction.
giving only Christians can vote is on the table right now. You saw the big full page Hobby
Hobby
Lobby.
Lobby.
Boy, talk about just spelling it right out. It's like, you're not a Christian and you don't belong here. Get out
You
of our
shouldn't be in the
playground.
government. If you're not a Christian, you shouldn't be in the government. I mean, these fuckers now are coming out full blown, no shame, uh, populist nationalists, like just Christian nationalists. That's what they're calling themselves, Christian nationalists. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene's new thing. And she said, yes, I am a Christian, and yes, I am a nationalist. So,
Well, you get a little power, and then you get a little bit more power, and when you have enough power, you figure that you can just kind of step up and do whatever I guess you want, or
especially
do
if
the
she
things
gets
that you always wanted to do.
You know,
what if
people
You know,
she
who
gets
learn
reelected?
People
Marjorie
refer to-
Taylor Greene got swatted twice this week.
Yeah. People referred to the swastika as the bent cross, and they've just unbent it now, and it's, that's the new patriotic symbol. If you're not a Christian, you're out of luck.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, I bet the confusion is that the people who feel that the country should be run by Christians aren't really Christians.
Exactly.
They call themselves Christians.
That.
Yeah, I grew up around Christians. I mean, my parents were hardcore Baptists and conservatives, but they didn't act like these people that are claiming to be Christians. These guys that are claiming to be, they're basically all just political activists for the right wing.
I don't even think they're activists. I think they are a bunch of privileged people who are terrified that they are going to somehow just automatically become irrelevant as a race if there are immigrants and they become a minority. Minority doesn't mean that, see, that's the deal. Minority shouldn't mean less than. And that's what they're so fucking afraid of, is once whites are minorities, well, that's always been kind of a bad word, right? You're a minority. You're less than. You're not the majority anymore. And I think that's terrifying, because we've treated, as white people, historically, minorities very poorly. And I think they think that's what's going to happen.
I'm looking something up here. I don't have it right in front of me here, which is why okay, here it is. So there was a poll, and the poll found that 60% of Americans say that U.S. democracy is in crisis.
That would be
in fact, this may be an older poll. Is this an older? Yeah, this is an older poll. So more recently, there was a poll that said that people saw as their greatest concern, and I think it was a lot more than 60% really, their greatest concern was that American democracy was coming apart. So people are concerned about it. And there are a lot of people who are concerned about it. The same kinds of concerns that we're talking about here. But I wonder, question, do these people that we're so concerned about, the ones who are on the right and who strike us as being authoritarian and fascist and so forth, how do they see what they're doing? What do they think they're doing? Do they think that they're supporting democracy, or are they comfortable with the idea that the democracy shouldn't exist? I mean, there's a lot wrong with democracy, but it's like Winston Churchill said, it is the worst form of government except for all the others.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think I think they don't call it fascism. They're going to call it conservatism. I don't think that they fully recognize. I know that the older school people do, but people like Josh Hawley, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, they don't appreciate or understand history. And they're going to glom onto these words, which they're changing the very meaning of a lot of these words. For example, Republican, Liz Cheney is no longer a Republican. And she's even talking about running as an
She's not. Did she leave the Republican Party?
Well, she's talking about running for president as an independent.
Yeah, because that's about all she's going to be able to. They're not going to let her any kind of Republican.
It'll kill the Democrats. It'll put him right back in office.
What? Yeah. If she runs for president as a Republican,
as an independent,
she'll split the ticket. She'll split the ticket, and the Democrats will win.
No, because a lot of these people who are leaning away from the Trump MAGA crowd are coming to the Democratic Party right now. If we introduce a third party, you're going to get the conservatives we've got right now going to someone who supported the January 6th committee, those rational Republicans will vote for Cheney, and those rational Republicans right now would vote for Biden. So if we introduce Liz Cheney, she's going to take our votes.
Yeah, although there are a lot of Republicans who will not vote. They're not thrilled with the direction the thing is taken, but they will not vote Democrat just because that's the way they were raised. Ah, there he is.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey man, nice haircut.
Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks.
A haircut.
I did it for the show.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Really?
Blame us. Blame us.
Well, if you get tired of it, I can give you some of mine.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it.
We've got hair to spare.
Nice.
Well, welcome, Roy.
Thanks.
How goes it?
It goes. It goes. There's no end to the incessant drama that life is. So
we were just discussing whether Liz Cheney running as an independent would split the vote and help the Republicans, or would it help the Democrats?
It would kill the Democrats, is my opinion.
Really interesting. You mean running as for president, not for the House?
As an independent.
Huh.
See, I was thinking she would take votes away from whatever fascist the Republicans decide to run. It would be
Trump. Only against Trump could she do this, I think.
Well, I think Trump is running in 2024.
Well,
right, so
Trump wants to run in 2024, but he may not be nominated.
I think the loyalty in the Republican Party is so solid that that's a done deal, I think.
Well, it looks like it, but I tend to think that if other people seriously enter the race, the thing about it is that there are Republicans who are really ambitious, and while they may say that they're supportive of Trump, they want to run themselves, or they have their own guy that they would like to elect instead. And whatever they may be saying today, when push comes to shove, and when we get into like nominations and debates and so forth, and I think, and into presidential primaries, I think there is a chance that Trump will have slipped somewhat. Plus, he may not be able to govern effectively from a jail cell.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in jail. I think I was saying that I thought that if she runs as an independent, that all of the rational Republicans who have decided to come over to the Democratic side for this next election will vote for her rather than Trump, which will take those votes away from us that we have right now.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't actually thought of it that way. My assumption was that the Republicans who are loyal to the Republican Party but hate Trump, who are going to vote Trump just because he's Republican, will now have an alternative, and they'll go over to Cheney.
Yeah, I get the feeling that there are a lot of Republicans, the Republican fixers, the power brokers, that would really just love to have him take a long vacation and not come back into the political arena, because they see so much bad that he has, all the baggage he brings with him, and especially if he brings an indictment or a conviction with him, that's a little hard on the party.
I think it would have been in the past. I think the problem is something like 80% of Republicans still think he's the man, and I don't know how you overcome that. And I also think the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago brought the party around him again. Like, maybe he was slipping, and maybe DeSantis was in the picture. I think that's out of the picture, at least for now. 2 years is a long time, though. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the raid is going to separate the diehard Trumpers from the people who really don't think it's cool to have that kind of thing going on, where the president has stuff that could easily be used against the country.
I don't know. Give a shit.
I think that there's a pretty good chance that Trump is going to fade, and part of it will be because of, I mean, every day there's a new revelation, right? We hear more and more about it. Now, right now, Trump has high visibility again. They're talking about him constantly. You can't look anywhere without seeing something about Trump.
That's
right
been
now it's about
forever though.
well, I know, but not really. It was fading away a little bit, and it came back hard with all this stuff that's going on now. Well, the January 6th thing, obviously, spotlights Trump. And then there's this thing about the documents, which should really give people pause. I mean, why was he holding those documents? What did he gain from that? Could it be that he had a customer for those documents? I mean, you really got to wonder about. There's signs of treason all over that guy.
Somebody said he went through the boxes himself, and I have a really hard time believing that.
Yeah, he is not the kind to do any kind of manual work.
No,
he's the kind to point and
know.
say, "Hey, boy, why don't you go and go through those and tell me what you find?"
And he
can read.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going to say. He wouldn't actually be reading the documents.
He wouldn't
But
know
the whole thing with the intelligence community, who are not really a liberal community, they are upset because this guy had stuff that was seriously dangerous,
way beyond top secret.
And the only reason I would imagine, if I was in his shoes and I wanted to get out a jail-free card from Putin, I mean, what are you going to do? Just, hey, I've got all these intelligence documents. Sneak me out of the country when they come to get me. That makes a lot more sense than just, I forgot to give it back.
It had to have been calculated. There were just too many of them. But
yeah, and they were serious.
Do you think it would have had to have been someone else like Mark Meadows or one of those guys who knew what was in those documents that would have said, these need to go with you? Because he wouldn't know. He doesn't know this stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many of the documents. It was obviously, he did a pick and choose. Well, this is some seriously good stuff that I want to have in my little cache of secret documents. I found a box of stuff I had from an old job I had years ago that I didn't even know why I had it. I looked at it, it was all crap, because I didn't plan to have these documents. They were just memos from people who are dead now. But he went and got a lot of, from what I can tell from the people that are talking about the kind of stuff he had. It's not just some interoffice memos and his random thoughts. These are security documents.
I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, but one of the things that I understood that he took were the nuclear codes.
That's what I heard.
But the hilarious thing about that is those changed on January 20th, 2021.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they always.
And that feels like that's a typical Trump thing where he doesn't understand the situation he's in.
What do you mean to change the passcode?
Bonehead.
Oh God,
he's not
so
really
stupid.
good on analysis. He hires people to
or information, right?
No,
I mean, I remember in January 2017 when Taiwan called to congratulate him. And that happens every 4 years. The Taiwanese president calls the brand new president of the United States to congratulate. But you're not supposed to pick up the phone, because if you pick up the phone, you're letting everybody know that you acknowledge that the People's Republic of China doesn't own the Republic of China and that it's separate.
Yeah, China starts punching in the launch codes when you
exactly.
Pick up that
and
phone.
He picked up the phone, and it was like, oh man, this guy knows nothing. He knows nothing.
Yeah, well, Pelosi also didn't help it either, because I mean, she kind of screwed the pooch there. I mean, it was nice. I mean, Taiwan, they're trying not to be part of China, and China wants them to be, and she just jumped right into the middle of it.
But there was actually a pretty solid reason to do that, and that was the fear that China was going to use the current global situation as an excuse to go into Taiwan. So Pelosi showing up was a signal to the PRC that we will fight for Taiwan. And that's why they were so mad. But at the end of the day, they haven't attacked yet, and I think it's because they're still doing the calculation. Like, is this worth it?
So I heard that Russia and China, and this is probably, it could just be a rumor, that they had decided not to invade, Russia had decided not to invade Ukraine until after the world, whatever, the Olympics. And so if that's true and they are working together, this would be like the perfect time for them to get Taiwan. I mean, it would be
It would be.
two theaters, right? It would be, that would be the end of it, I think. We'd all be at
I mean, when the CIA and the other intelligence agencies began leaking the documents that proved Russia was going to attack Ukraine, the first thing I said to everybody was, now China is thinking they're going to attack Taiwan, because once that happens, it's a two-front situation. It's World War III scenario. Who wants any of that? And I think that's why it was necessary for Pelosi to go, at least in Pelosi's mind. I don't know if it was the right thing to do, but it's also worth mentioning that Joe Biden himself already messed this up even before that. So we have a thing called strategic ambiguity, where we don't promise to defend Taiwan so that the Taiwanese don't get overconfident, so that the Chinese don't declare their independence. And then
said we were going to do it.
Yeah, so we go out of our way to keep this strategic ambiguity in place. And Joe Biden this year said we will defend Taiwan. The State Department immediately released a memo going, no, we're not sure. we don't know. Maybe not.
Well, now think about this. So if Russia had rolled over Ukraine and taken them in a day or two, like some people thought they were.
I did. I thought it would be like 2 weeks.
Yes. So China might have immediately taken action against Taiwan. But I think they're probably thinking twice about it now. I mean, this war in Ukraine is still going on and Russia's being bled by it. And China knows that if they attack Taiwan, they're going to be in the same kind of situation. So they're going to think twice about attacking Taiwan or trying to take Taiwan or screw with Taiwan's quasi-independence, you know?
I totally agree. Not just because of Ukraine, but I think if anybody does the math, post-World War II, Korean War, that didn't work. Vietnam War, that didn't work. Afghanistan, that didn't work. Afghanistan again, that didn't work. Iraq didn't work. Ukraine isn't working. The war between Somalia and Ethiopia, that didn't turn into anything. The Iran-Iraq war didn't turn into, in other words, war might be done. These wars that we've been doing since World War II have just, they've been catastrophic for the superpowers that have gotten in, or the guy that had the advantage. And in the end, nobody got conquered, nothing was changed, just a bunch of lives were lost and the economy crashed.
Well, when you have so many market economies in the world, then what happens is that when you have wars, you're attacking and killing customers.
Exactly.
And you don't want to do that.
Disrupting trade.
Well, war used to be a great way of imperialist gain, of whoever was fighting the wars, and it became less useful when the weapons of war became so horrendous that you can go out and start a war, but it may just be the end of everyone. And a lot of people have realized that, and I was surprised by how ineffective the Russian military was. They've always been hyped as being really, hardcore. They've got all these great weapons, and they were getting their asses kicked all over the place. They were sending in all these conscripts, and that's never been a winning recipe for running a war. It's a bunch of unpatriotic folk in there that have just been ordered to show up. They weren't, the hardcore career military.
It really undermines that whole commercial that Ted Cruz had about this, how sissified our military is, because of the commercial of the young girl with the two moms who became a lieutenant or whatever, something in the military, and it went on. And then he shows this military propaganda commercial for the Russians, and all of these guys that are just Hulk Hogan but covered in tactical gear, jumping out of these helicopters. And he makes this comment about, I think, we have a bunch of sissies, and fortunately, it kind of came around to bite him in the ass, I think. But
Yeah, Putin didn't send those guys over.
no, I don't know
He
where
just
they
sent a
are.
bunch of draftees over there who really didn't want to be there, and they weren't trained, and saw how
What's
that shook
disturbing to
out.
me is all of the gun display that I'm seeing from the right. Like the Christmas cards they sent out with they're all got their
Yeah.
guns, and
Little
shit.
girls with the
It's like,
pink AK
isn't that
47s.
cute? And it's fuzzy right here. So, and she's got a bump stock. So,
They should have at least put lights on those guns.
they
The
should make them
flowers
so
in
Well,
the
they do.
barrel.
They have the laser sights. So that's not exactly Christmas lights, but
But to jump on what Scoop was saying about the Russian military's underperformance, I think another thing has been sort of illustrated that nobody in the world in the military establishment wants to acknowledge, but I think it's way past time, and that is tanks don't matter anymore.
right.
And Russia wanted to win a tank war, and the Ukrainians blew their tanks to smithereens.
Yeah,
This
and
is sort of like the British going after the Americans, in the Revolutionary War. And remember what the deal was there. The British were sort of like their military procedures were pretty stodgy. And the
the
Americans were
Reds are
fighting a
coming.
guerrilla war, It's kind of
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, well, the
Marching.
Americans, we developed all sorts of wild tanks, all these super things that cost billions and trillions of dollars and didn't really make much of a difference, in like in Syria or wherever we've taken them. And it was the high tech stuff that was really, making things happen. The cruise
Drones.
missiles, the drones.
Yeah.
Drones made it.
A tank is great, but if you're going across the desert, the tank's going to be just a,
Target.
yeah, well, it'll be a slow moving, easy target.
Okay, so I before we get off we've got time, but I just want to make sure I asked this question, and it's something I just heard, and it's what's going on in Pakistan, with the president.
Imran Khan.
Yeah, what is happening there?
So Imran Khan was a darling of the military. I'm trying to remember the exact thing he got mad over. There was somebody was demoted in the military that he liked, that he backed. He got angry about it. He talked about it. And then the next thing you know, the military stopped backing him. He got pulled out in a vote of no confidence by parliament. So he's no longer prime minister. But then he's been doing these rallies to try to get back in. And at the rallies, he's been doing things like asking the military to back him again. Why don't you like me? I still want a date, kind of thing.
I still want a date.
He's been stalking the military.
Nice.
And at one of the rallies, he actually threatened to do violence to multiple members of parliament. So now he's been charged with terrorism, using their anti-terrorism laws. For the record, I totally think it's inappropriate to charge him with terrorism. I think it's appropriate, however, to charge him with,
threats,
threatening to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Well, the threats in Pakistan are between Pakistan and India are big time lately. I mean, the Indian Air Force shot a missile into a nuclear capable missile into Pakistan on March 9th. I mean, that was a big
Pakistan have been
deal.
really angry at each other for a few years now, mostly because of what Modi has been doing with Kashmir, but also the fact that Modi has really been pushing the anti-Islamic mantra of Indian nationalism. And so, they've ramped it up. Ironically enough, India and China have ramped it up, and they've actually been shooting at each other across the border. And the Chinese have been killing Indian soldiers. So it's almost like a two-front thing on India right now. But that's what happens with nationalism, right? Nationalism begets violence.
Thank God we're Christian nationalists.
Oh,
Yeah, that's so much better. Phew. Wow.
Yeah,
With guns.
With guns.
Christians with guns.
So
We're the
who's
good
Mercury
guys.
going to invade? I mean, her Christian nationalists, if they're going to be true nationalists, they have to
look,
invade somebody.
Probably Italy, because of the whole Jewish laser thing that they were running from
They're
there.
and invade the Vatican because it's not
S-
real
what-
Christians.
Speaking of this fake news stuff, what do you think is going to happen with Dominion and Fox? Do you think Dominion will win? Do you think Fox will settle? How would this work out? Because they are suing Fox like
I
crazy.
think Fox will settle. They don't care. They're just going to give up some cash and walk away.
Yeah, they're going to have to give up a lot of cash though, because that was
want that to be a
seriously
story.
a bad decision on their
Because
part.
yeah, and not only that, but they should have to make retractions. They should have to come on and say we made this up, or
No,
we misreported this on purpose.
They'll write the big check, and then part of the deal will be we're not going to, confess to anything. It's like, here's your money, cash the check, but we're not going to say we did it.
And we'll promise we won't say anything bad about
We
it.
won't do it ever again until next year.
Well, the bigger question here, I think, is about number one, the security of voting machines. And number two, but probably the bigger concern is the credibility of elections.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And how
I mean,
people
that's the
feel
goal,
about
right, is to
elections.
destroy that.
Well, that one
Exactly.
woman called it rigged before the votes were counted, and then she won. And I'm like, so
Well,
Well,
yeah,
right.
the reverse rig is on right now because all these Republican, ultra conservatives have been running for like the Secretary of State offices, for election commission offices, and getting them in a lot of the states that were kind of battleground states. So all of a sudden, yeah, they've got people watching the elections, but they have a whole different agenda than we had hoped.
and
Well, the Republicans are upset because the Democrats stole the election by voting.
No,
Right.
those pesky Democrats.
well, as while we're talking about the elections and that sort of thing, and they're going to stop us from giving people rides or having drinks of water, bringing water and stuff. I would like to call attention, I'm sure Roy would too, to what happened to Jaquita in Round Rock, Williamson County. She's I wish I could, her candidate, do you remember? It's Tiffany.
Well, they were being harassed outright.
They got
Right.
they got mailed biohazardous material, envelopes of bloody tampons. There was, it's just going to people they didn't even really, some of them were working on the team. Several of them said they were coming directly from the candidate to these workers who are working on her team, and they know that's not true. But then there are some they're going to just general supporters. And it's really frightening because they know where these people live. And apparently, they've been doxxed, several of them. It's terrifying. There's never
Well,
been-
it doesn't take too many bad actors. It can only one or two people can create a lot of mischief there. So it's not necessarily that Republicans or right-wing people or all, whatever are harassing people
right.
in mass, but it only takes one or two. And the problem is that there is this sense in the air that it's okay to do that. And that comes from Trump, that comes from the whole Trump era. And it hadn't got better. It's just got worse.
A lot of these bad actors, it's not the political leaders and the officials of the Republican Party that are committing all these, horrendous crimes, shootings and plots to kidnap governors. It's just the big guys like Trump say, well, they're un-American and you need to go get them. And there's always somebody out there who's going to go get them. And those two poor idiots who just got convicted of trying to, kidnap the governor at her vacation home. It's like, come on, people.
Well, the system of laws
I'm
is
not gonna pardon you.
the system of laws is being attacked and challenged by people who claim, I mean, the same people who at one time would have said that they were like for law and order or whatever. But, you know, when throughout my life, and I'm an old guy, my understanding was always that if you got a fucking subpoena, you had to show up. So why is it that people feel that they can just not
I
show
don't know,
up?
but if I ever get subpoenaed, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I am pulling the Mark Meadows right now. I can't.
And they'll stick you in jail.
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
not
or
a rich
me,
white
they
man, Susie. I'm sorry. That's not how
Yeah,
that
or
works.
powerful.
I'm not
you
any
know.
of those things.
Your
except for the
resume won't
white
get you out
extra.
of.
You have a great deal of personal power, Susie, but not the kind that would keep you out of jail if you ignored a
Not the
subpoena.
kind that keeps me a first-class citizen like you guys, right?
Well, yeah, what I
Well, we're not first class because none of us are that rich.
what I find ironic.
You still got
Yeah,
more
exactly.
rights than I do.
Do we?
You just don't realize how low you are. Like, it's not second class, Susie.
Right. I'm
Susie, you got to realize I can't get an abortion either.
See,
What about all the people that want to
to me, I have
defund
to tell
the
you, that
FBI?
is not even funny.
I know it's not funny, but seriously, I mean, what rights are you missing that we have?
Autonomy over my body?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, I mean,
so.
I think she got you
Well,
there,
what
John.
the fuck, man? What did you think I was talking about?
Well, no, you're
Voting?
right.
No, getting to
He gets
choose
less
what I
pay
do with my
the same
body.
job.
Yeah,
I mean, come
less
on.
pay. How about that? Less pay. There's another one. How about that? How about dress codes just got changed on the House floor 2 years ago, so we could wear we didn't have to wear dresses.
But
I mean,
see, your rights are supposedly not diminished, even though all of those terrible things are happening. But you have a clear point on autonomy over your body. Absolutely. I'm
with Susie right now doing the.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think whether there is any way in which the question of autonomy over your body could be undone, or the right of autonomy over your body could be undone for males, and I can't really think what that would be.
You guys could know. First of all, you should be, if there's any sort of rape, there should be a real consequence, and it shouldn't be a month in jail and probation. That's one thing. The second thing is, you guys can stop masturbating. You're killing God knows how many children every time you do it.
But we don't masturbate.
Eggs aren't, listen, man, eggs are not alive until your little live swimmer fuckers touch it.
I had wondered about that. I wondered when are they going to outlaw masturbation?
I mean,
that's what they're trying to do in Texas.
Well, I can't see them doing that because there's so many Republicans that are total jerk-offs, and I mean, they're not going to outlaw their favorite thing.
I don't know. I found it interesting that Lindsey Graham was like, oh, I guess we better check this out since, Kansas voted for this. Is kind of maybe we should look at this a little bit better. And I'm like, well, yeah, you fucking moron.
But also, what about Kansas? They're in this red state that voted in a way that helped get rid of abortion, and then they ran and protected their own abortion.
And then they ran and took what the I don't.
Yeah,
where's that hypocrisy?
They were the hometown of the anti-abortion movement. Kansas was the heart of that whole thing when it got started, and all of a sudden they got a decent vote against the
59-41 wasn't even close. It was a landslide.
Yeah.
I heard a weird thing this morning. I was hearing and this was on NPR, I think. There was a woman, and I didn't really catch her name or the name of her organization, but it was some organization that was pro-life people who were providing services and counseling and funds and so forth for women who had pregnancies. And the idea was support the pregnancy and support the woman so that she won't even consider having an abortion or whatever. And at some point, the woman talked about how they were empowering women. And it's like, you take a woman's right away, you take a woman's right to have control of her body, and then you argue that you're empowering them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not.
Doublethink is
You're just
amazing.
not.
It's amazing.
It is. It is.
Cognitive dissonance. There's nothing better. Trust me. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, and I love that. And the migrant children who were put in cages and then sent out to Florida, they were getting hysterectomies.
That's
I
true.
mean, what? But what about procreation? Oh, just the white people. Just the white people can procreate. That's what they want.
But here's the twist to all of this. So we get rid of abortion in a bunch of red states. The blue states will defend it. Turns out some of the red states will defend it. But at the end of the day, rich people will still go get abortions. They'll just fly to Colorado and New Mexico and California. So that means that the only people who are not going to be getting the abortions are poor. And it isn't just white folk who are poor in the United States. I don't think that the white Christian nationalists have thought this through.
They have not thought this through.
They have not thought this through.
Not in any
they want a one-size-fits-all solution, and just life doesn't work that way.
No.
So I want to jump back to something John started to talk about, and then we got derailed. And it was the credibility of the election outcomes.
Yeah.
And then Susie actually added to it by bringing up the whole Jaquita thing. I think that's the tactic going forward, is to disrupt campaigns through terrorism and to go after the people in charge of making sure our elections are there's no cheating, right? That they are legitimate. And we've seen this now in Gillespie County, where the three people in charge of the elections in Gillespie County resigned because there were so many, Fredericksburg is, there were so many death threats against them. They decided they couldn't do their job anymore. So now what happens in November in that county?
Yeah, this is right out of the totalitarian playbook of, go in and harass the people that are running the campaigns and are people in charge of the vote.
Well, and kidnap them and threaten them with bodily injury, which is what a lot of these crazy people are doing. What I am so confused about is why some of these older people who have always been considered statesmen are not standing up the way Liz Cheney, and please don't misunderstand me, I don't care for her. But I do respect what she's doing. And I think I just don't understand why more of those people aren't doing this. I don't get it.
This is what has surprised me, because I used to think that if we started going down this path, that people with integrity would stand up, for people's rights, that they would stand up for democracy, for elections, for all of those things. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
People with real integrity are generally not in those offices. The people we get that, are just sitting on their hands now because they don't want to cut off all those donations that keep their lifestyle and their office running. They love those donations, and if they speak up and act, do the right thing, then they'll be out of business.
I just keep waiting for our "have you no decency, sir" moment, and every now and then it seems like it happens, but then it really didn't happen because we're just chugging along down, over the cliff.
Yeah, the decency question is answered by no, we don't have any decency.
Well, I think Roy was going to give us a couple of options here.
Yes. How do we fix it, Roy?
Well, no, that's not. I don't know how to fix it. But I mean, here's where we're at. We did have some people stand up, even back in 2017, people like Jeff Flake, for example, but then he immediately announced he wasn't going to run for office again because he knew he was going to lose in the primary to a right-wing lunatic, just like Liz Cheney has done. And I think that's the lesson that the Republican Party has realized is Trump has told them point blank, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to create a third party and you'll never get elected to anything ever again.
That's a fact.
So they've been put into a position where they have option one, which is retire, or option 2, which is go along with the system. And they were probably borderline Nazi to begin with, so what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, and Trump doesn't really have the numbers, I don't think. I think that he's just got the complete lack of morals that people are afraid of what he would do to them.
I mean, he'll
Yeah.
split the party, and
Yeah.
that'd be devastating to the Republican Party. And how long will that last? Like, maybe Trump only has 5 years of life left, but the destruction he does might last 15, 20 years. And for a politician, that's an eternity.
Yeah, he's creating a whole system where, even if he passes away, all of his little weasels that are working with him will still be around.
And
He's
they're
created
all gonna like kill each other to try to get to the top, which is of course what DeSantis is already doing. And by the way, I think Abbott is also trying to position himself, but that's because I think Abbott doesn't understand he doesn't have a chance. He's
going for the pity vote. I swear to God, he is just, it's like, what is really, really astounding to me is the ability of these men to scream about how much power they have and they can do anything that they want to you. But at the same time, they can't do anything they want to you, but they can do anything they want to you, and they will. So I don't know. I was going somewhere with that, but it's just I had to
it's
take
the pity vote that Abbott's pushing for.
Oh yeah,
it's like it's this white
the
power
victims
thing.
How do you project that strength and then also say I'm a pity me? Yeah, I'm a victim. And it seems
you're
like
trying to silence me.
I don't have a platform, you say, on every single fucking network.
Yeah. Have you seen Abbott's latest campaign ad? I saw that this afternoon.
About him making it out of the chair.
He had the tree fell on him and he's laying in the bed. And
that's what I'm saying. Pity, pity, pity.
Yeah,
pity, pity,
it's
pity.
a pity party.
Poor little
They're all
fella.
playing the hungry for power games.
After we found out DPS was in Uvalde from the beginning and they still didn't do anything for 77 minutes, I don't know, dude. I don't know how anybody could hold their nose and cast a vote for that. The fact that the governor had the ability to push the button on that thing and didn't blows my mind.
It was very Trumpy, is what that was. That was a Trump move. Trump could have stopped that insurrection, but he didn't. It's just, I see so many similarities. And I don't know, maybe DeSantis is coming out too early. I hope he is. And then, but I don't want him to run against Trump in the primary. I think he'll win the primary.
I want Ted Cruz to run just to
DeSantis.
cause maximum devastation in the party.
I think the Republican Party has become cult-like, and Trump is the cult leader. It doesn't matter who. Yeah. It doesn't matter how amazing the next guy in line is until Trump is gone.
So what happens when he's gone? There's
going to be a scramble for power.
But maybe he'll bring out the Kool-Aid.
You to buy some for him.
Do you remember at Kavanaugh's hearing how upset Lindsey Graham got and the words that he said? He said, his face was so screwed up with rage. And he was all red and he was like, God, y'all sure are hungry for power. I hope to God you never get it. And it was like during the Kavanaugh hearings where they're just ramming through this guy nobody vetted. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, but the guy likes beer.
Beer
in his butt.
Okay.
Well, he didn't he, boof? Isn't that what boofing is? But that's what he was talking about.
You know more than me.
The whole thing was.
I don't play in that league, I'm afraid.
Well, that's what the whole thing was. Is they boofed, and there were.
Susie, you've been to different parties than we have.
There were yearbook signatures about the boof boss and all this shit in these yearbooks, and it was a way to get drunk faster. They were pouring beer in each other's assholes. I am not making this up.
I guess I've been doing it wrong all these years.
I'm going to send you links. I did not make this up.
We lost Tom.
None of this.
No, I lost my AirPod. I got so excited it flew out of my ear.
There's a new way to get drunk.
We have 1 minute left, and we definitely have to circle around again and attack this because I've enjoyed this session.
Yeah, me too. Roy, you'll have to
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and get me a defund the FBI T-shirt. And have a defund the police on the other side. I guess turn back, confuse everyone.
Well, I want to say refund the public schools, but I don't think that comes out right.
Refund.
I demand a refund.
Demand a refund.
Did you say public schools?
Yeah.
I don't want it back. Thank you. It's hard enough getting rid of it.
Thanks, y'all.
We have reached the end of the internet.
Yes, the internet is thankful. Good night, everyone.
Love y'all. Bye.
Join us again, Roy.
Will do.
You can stay in touch with Plutopia at plutopia.io. On Facebook, look for @Plutopia News. On Twitter, it's @Plutopia. This is the Plutopia News Network, 20 minutes into the future.